Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Wolves of Shadowed Fate. Episode 25. Chapter 134 to 137. Graham's POV. Goddess, these women are not giving me a moment's peace. All night long it has been either sobbing or screaming at me about this being my fault. Right, my fault. They were falling all over themselves to get into Blake's arms. That was where they wanted to be, and I made it happen for them. They were really grateful at the time because they had him. They also had cash in their pockets too, from both me and him. When they were his girlfriends, their life was perfect, and I was their best friend. Now they have gone from me suggesting the best idea ever, to me having forced them into doing it. Not even close ladies, but I will say that Blake was right. I had a miserable night. I was thankful when I heard the door open at the end of the hallway. Goddess willing, it is the warriors coming to take them to Blood Tracker. I am sick and tired of hearing them cry about the consequences of their own choices. Sure enough, the women started crying again, so Blake must be coming this way. Their cries and wailing increased with each cell he passed as he headed down to mine. I was at the very end, and I know he planned that out as well. No one can hear me yell, plus he has more room on the walls to put Cassandra's pictures up. I was not going to let him know what a horrible night I had when I scented my daughter Regan. I immediately got up from my cot and came to the cell bars to see her. I see her staring at the pictures of her mother, with tears in her eyes. I heard Blake turn to her and quietly apologize to her for not informing her of the picture being down here. Now that was different. Blake is not nice to Regan. I am glad he was being kind to her because my first thought was that he was going to put her into a cell down here too. I didn't want her to be harmed. She is my pride and joy, and the only thing that I have left now. I see her emotions cross her face as she turned to look at me. I saw the sadness and grief all over her face at seeing her mother in all her glory framed on the wall. It makes me sad to look at those pictures too. Blake knew that, and he had put them up to hurt me, but he will never hear me beg for them to be taken down. I am tougher than he gives me credit for. He will learn that he is the weak one of the two of us. Blake got the chair for her and placed it just out of my reach so I couldn't hold her hand, or touch her. Maybe that was best. I am not very good at comforting people. Her mom was the one who always did that. I waited for her to smile at me, or let me know that she was ready to talk, but she is trying to control her emotions. She is angry. Good, I hope she talks some sense into Blake for me. Goddess willing, she can talk him into letting me go to Blood Tracker. Once I can get out of here, I will go to the bank branch that knows me personally, and get my account and my funds back. Goddess only knows how much spent of my money so far. I will take Regan and the pups with me, and Clive if he wants to come. But first I have got to get out of here. Regan, baby, I am so glad to see you. Are you okay? I asked her when she had calmed down. I can see that Aaron and Clive are with her, and they are very protective of her. I am glad that she is well taken care of by them. I can at least know that she will be all right, even if I cannot get out of here like I want to. I highly doubt that Blake would release me, especially after what I heard him tell me yesterday. I know that I can hang it up, but there is no way that cannot at least try to get out of here. It would be in my best interest to use everything single opportunity or trick that I know to do it. I would be in it to stay, because I have nothing to look forward to. Other than the vampire issue, and my mother being killed, I am as good as I can be, Dad, Regan tells me. Yes, she gave me a lead-in. I need to work this in my favor. Blake should feel guilty for his mate killing mine. I know what he said, but maybe I can apply enough guilt to get out of here. I won't even go back. I will just get out of here, so I can make other plans for after I can get free. I heard about the vampire problem at Blood Tracker. You cannot willingly go with them, Regan, they lie. You cannot trust a vampire. Whatever they tell you, even if you want to do it to save the kids, don't do it. The children are safer being with you and Clive. I can understand your pain at losing your mom. Who knew that Cheryl was so far over the edge like that? No one knew she would be willing to shoot your mother and 2 other innocent people. Cassandra was cut down in her prime. My heart is breaking as well over this, Regan. But she would want you to go on, and not mourn her for too long. She will always be in our hearts, I told her. I am laying it on thick because I needed to. I need to force Blake's hand, and the only way that I can do that is by pushing as hard as I can to be released. I will need her to lay it on thick too, but I cannot mind link her telling her to do that. Hopefully, she will figure out what I am doing, and try to work with me. But once the she-wolves hear the word vampire, they started crying again. Goddess, can they not shut up? I am so sick of hearing them and their incessant bawling. I swear whining and crying are what these women do best. One after the other, please spare us, we will never do something like this again, Graham made us do it, and I am sorry, please don't leave me to the vampires. They are not going to shut up about it. They made their own bed, and they knew the risks because I warned them before I told them the plan. They were all of the same opinions that it would never be discovered, but I knew that it could be. I was just banking on the fact that my death would be quick. I honestly thought it would be, and wasn't worried about it at the time. I am now. I know that they are worried about it too now that the ST has hit the fan. I already know what they are going to have to go through will be a horror-filled experience. A living nightmare, and I am glad that I will not be part of it. But I am not stupid. I know that Blake is coming up with torment just for me. If this was something that he just came up with, then Blake is much more terrifying than any of us knew. He is planning on getting Garrett and Mark dealt with too. I gave Regan a smile and tried to look both sad and pitiful while doing it. I need to garner as much pity from the group as I can. I sat down on my cot and tried to appear smaller, less intimidating, and knew that if I didn't convince them all with what I said, then I will be staying here for the rest of my life. I am pulling out all the stops now, as for some reason Regan doesn't look happy to see me. I know that she had to have missed us, as we should have been visiting her this coming weekend. She only gets to see us once a month, and she always gives me a hug. She is not acting like she usually does. I do not know if it is the she-wolves crying and complaining about being made to be prey for the vampires. It could be the loss of her mother too, but I can tell that something is bothering her, as she is not acting correctly. I decided to just speak normally, and hope that she decides to come out of it on her own. I also hope that she gets what I need her to do, and support me with my request to get out of here. How are the grandchildren? I asked her quietly. I did want to know the answer to that. I do love them, they just came behind Cassandra and Regan. They are all fine, scared because of the threat that we are dealing with. One of the vampires is allegedly obsessed with me and comes to my window to talk to me. The children are staying in our room with us, and some of the warriors. I will not take a chance on the vampires coming after them. I already know that they would take one of them in an effort to try to lure me into exchanging myself for my child. I cannot do it. I will not let them harm any of my pups. I want to be there for them when they need me. They have been the very best thing that has ever happened to me. I know I only planned on having one pup to be the heir to Silver Blade. But each one is different and special to me. I cannot imagine my life without them. I would die for them, so I need to be leaving soon. I have a feeling that the visitors will be coming back tonight. I need to make sure we are ready for them, Regan said, but she didn't get up from her chair. Please be careful, Regan. You and my grandpups are all I have left in the world, I told her. I am still trying to make their opinion of me as pitiful as I can. I am being honest in my statement to her, they are all I have left in this world. I worry about seeing her again. Blake is being very unforgiving right now. I doubt that he would let her return to Black Moon to see me. I may not want her to see me if Blake is going to be as aggressive toward me as I think he is going to be. I don't want her to see me hurt, and worry about me. She has enough on her plate right now. Dad, is there anything you want to say to me before I leave here? Anything that you would like to get off of your chest? I do not know if we will be able to see each other again, Regan tells me, and I looked at her and smiled, but shook my head as I didn't have anything to say to her. I believe this may be a one-time trip, so I wanted to say that I love you, Dad. But I am not proud of what you have done, Regan tells me, and she is mad. It is clear that her anger is directed at me, but I have no idea why she would be mad at me. Why are you mad at me? I haven't done anything to you. I can't understand why you are angry at me at all. I asked her. I am shocked. This sudden change in her doesn't even make sense. I have bent over backward for her, and Cassandra. Given them their needs, and their wants in life. How could she not be proud of me? I saved them both and brought us here to live safely without worrying about being hunted down by the council and potentially killed. Everything she desired, I made happen. How could she say that to me? Dad, what have you done? What did you do to Cheryl and Blake? How could you intentionally go after a pup? You did it to Raven too, when she was a child. Allowed her to be bullied and picked on. Encouraged us all to do it. You started that. You poisoned me against her, and I was her sister. We had a blood bond, but at every turn, you played me against her. Hinting that I needed to do something to her, so I would definitely be Luna. You had me trying to kill her. My own sister, Dad. Instead of having a built-in best friend, you made me her worst enemy. I lost my sister long ago, and now I have lost my mom. But most of all, I am hurt because I lost Mom because of what you did. Regan yelled out at me at the end, and she stepped right up to the bars so I could see her face. Her tears, her sadness, and her frustration are clear to see. She is hurt, but Cheryl was the one that killed her mom. That was not on me, Regan. Cheryl killed your mother. I was not to blame for any of that. I corrected her, and I stayed back away from her, still sitting on my cot. This was not going the way it was supposed to. That was not on me, Regan. Cheryl killed your mother. I was not to blame for any of that. I corrected her, and I stayed back away from her, still sitting on my cot. This was not going the way it was supposed to. Cheryl did kill my mother, but only because you pushed her to it, Dad. It was all you behind the scenes pulling the strings, just like you normally do, Dad. I know what you did. A child, Dad, how could you? Why, there was no reason for it. Do not tell me it was for me, because I have told you at every turn, that I didn't need vengeance. It was over and done with, and I wanted to move on. To live a peaceful life with my children, but here you come, ruining people's lives, and for what? Some misplaced vendetta? I told you I was happy, that I was fine. I didn't need you bringing up what happened all the time. I needed to move past it because it was traumatizing, and it was over and done. Aaron took care of it. He sentenced them to death and killed them himself. Aaron took care of it, there was no score to settle for me, it had already been settled long ago. Regan tells me, and her disappointment in me is clear. I never intended for anyone to die, especially not your mother. I still don't understand why she would do that. Cheryl loved your mom, they spoke quite frequently. I had no idea that Cheryl would do something like that, it went against her character. She was supposed to break, and she wouldn't. I had to keep pushing her. You were RD, Regan, and punishment had to be issued for that, I told her, and got up from my cot to approach the bars of my cell. Michael was punished for that, Dad. No one knew he would do such a terrible thing. He was punished by Aaron for it. Just because you didn't realize it, doesn't mean that he hadn't been dealt with. His reward had been taken away. Aaron was fair, and Michael was pissed about the punishment that he got. But I was protected by the other three every time I went out from the pack house. No one knew that Michael, Jennifer, and Tabitha had that kind of death wish. I will tell you right now, Mom knew. Mom knew that she was going to die, Dad. Mom was a descendant of the moon goddess. I happen to know for a fact, that Mom knew what you had done, and exactly what was going to happen to her. She knew everything, Dad, everything that you had done, she even knew you drugged her. Your own mate, Dad, you are disgusting. You knew that she was never going to forgive you for all the shame and embarrassment of the whole pack, knowing that she just wasn't good enough for you. Everyone knew of your girlfriends, Dad, one of them was only a few years older than me. I had to deal with the shame of it too, being teased at school because of what you were doing. At the time you bought me whatever I wanted, and I used that to forgive you. But Mom was hurt way more than me, she felt it, Dad. You marked her, and she felt it every time you voluntarily went to one of your women. She said nothing to you, she bore the pain, and you thought you had gotten away with it, didn't you? Because you weren't true mates, so how could she possibly have felt it? But she did, Dad, she felt it every single time. You always paid her off, as you did me whenever you messed up. Money is your love language, and you felt like it fixed everything. You and she lied to the pack about being true mates and told them all that you were because you wanted their respect. Did it never occur to you that some of them might have known the truth? That you wouldn't have been cheating on her if you two had actually been true mates? Let me make it clear to you, she told me that after 20 years of not sleeping together, all of a sudden she was good with you. Flip of a dime, and now she is suddenly all good with having S*X with you again? Did you really think that she didn't know what you did to her? I will tell you that she did love you, Dad. She did mention that to me. But I also know that she was disappointed in what you were planning, and doing in this pack. She knew that she had to pay the price for your actions, Dad. Even though it was not her burden to bear, Regan asked me. I am shocked at what she is saying to me. They did believe we were true mates, I know they did, because no one confronted us about it. They may have had their doubts, but they didn't mention them to me. There have been plenty of other alphas who had true mates that also took girlfriends. But what was Regan saying? My Cassandra was a descendant of the moon goddess Selene, is she serious? Cassandra had never mentioned it before. If she knew she would have told me, but now that I think about it, Cassandra had been acting differently toward me the last few months. She seemed upset with me when I hadn't done anything to her. Well, anything that she knew about. But Cassandra had to have been the one who told Regan that. How did Regan know that I had drugged Cassandra if she hadn't told her? No one knew about that. Regan spoke as if she had all the proof she needed, so what had Cassandra told her? I am starting to panic now, because if that is the case, then the goddess herself is displeased with me. You cannot trick the goddess. She knows exactly what I did, and my actions were the reason that her descendant was killed. There is no coming back from this for me. Chapter 135 Reagan's POV. Dad never ceases to amaze me, and not in a good way. I am so very disappointed in him. He let me down, and he let Mom down. He refuses to admit any fault, and I am not going to back down here. I can't, because before I am done with him, he is going to admit what he did to Mom. He looks so stunned right now that I just sit back down in my chair to let him process what I just told him. It might take a minute. When he does finally get it, he will know for a fact that her dying was completely on him. He will not want to accept that. It will cause him to have to accept that if he had done what we asked to begin with, none of us would be here right now. He would be at home, with Mom, doing whatever it is they did there. He would still have his precious money. Cheryl and Blake would be fine, and happy together. Their son would have never had to deal with the things that my dad put on him. I would be happy at Blood Tracker, and not here to pick up my mother's body for burial. I felt a hand come down on my shoulder, and then another hand falls on my other shoulder, and it is Clive and Aaron showing me support for what I said to Dad. They knew it had been tough on me, and were showing me support. I now feel the tears on my face from having to give my dad a reality check. I did hate that our last interaction together was going to be unpleasant. That his last memory of me was going to be me calling him out for what he has done. He needs to know my anger at his actions and disappointment in what he chose to do to Blake, Cheryl, and their son. He knowingly set out to destroy them, when others played a much bigger role in what happened. He focused more on being angry with Blake and Cheryl and me being demoted to a breeder, than the two that lied about me, and set me up. I had been the cause of my own punishment. I started that ball rolling myself. Blake was totally within his rights to kill me. Just like these girls are being sentenced to death, for the exact same thing. They rolled the dice, and they crapped out too. I messed up, and my penalty was the same. Dad just bought my way out of being killed, and so did Aaron. I saw it when it hit. When the knowledge of what he had done hit him hard. I never meant to cause him to cry, but I did want him to know that he was the reason that his mate, my mother, is dead. He sank to his knees, and he stopped pretending. He is in full-on grief at the realization that he is culpable, and entirely at fault here. I know that I needed to ease up on him now, but I needed answers. I am sure that Blake needed them too. Why, Dad? What were you thinking when you know that we barely escaped the Council, Blackadder, and Bloodwalker? We barely escaped with our lives, so why would you do this? Why would you pursue it when both Mom and I asked you to drop it? Why did you choose to punish Blake and Cheryl when Garrett and Mark were the ones that caused it? I just don't understand your thinking here, Dad. It doesn't even make any sense. Because now we are both on their radar, Dad, they all knew where we are. Did you think Cheryl was just going to leave you alone, and not pay you back? I am not trying to be mean here, Dad, I just cannot understand why you would risk everything, including your own freedom to do this. I asked him. Every time I saw you, I could not get over seeing what they did to you there. It was like you were branded by them with all of your scars. They wanted to make you hideous so the guys wouldn't want you anymore. You were so beautiful, just like your mother. Now that I know that she is a descendant, it makes more sense that she was as stunning as she was. You are my only child, and I could not protect you from harm. I did. I tried, I spent so much to try to keep you safe, and you were hurt the moment you left here. Do you think that didn't hurt me too? How we weren't even allowed to come and see you. To see exactly what had happened to you. We were prevented from going there for 3 months. We knew it was bad, and it broke our hearts. I have spent my life protecting you and taking care of you. I love you and your mother so much. I just wanted them to realize the same hurt I felt. I felt that the whole thing was caused by you being demeaned and demoted to the lowest ranking you could get. Even Omegas have more value. You were meant for great things, and everything was taken away from all of us. I have had no control of anything for years when I have always had some control over things. How do you think that made me feel? I just couldn't let what happened to you go. I tried, I really tried to let it go. But with each visit, I grew angrier. Just seeing how you were treated by most of the people at Blood Tracker like you were less than gum on their shoes. Like they thought you asked to become a breeder. Like you asked to be hurt by those jealous she-wolves. All you did was just want to live, we did too because it would have broken our hearts to lose you. Yes, you made mistakes to get where you are, that was my fault too. I wanted to give you the world. I was so proud of you. I know that Goddess punished us because of our actions, and what we did to Cole. But I have loved you from the moment you arrived, and I would give my own life to protect yours, Dad announced to the room. I can feel the tears running down my face as I realized how bad he has felt over me getting hurt. He has been able to protect me, but I got myself into those binds, by trying to emulate what he did. My dad was my hero, and I thought that he was the best at everything he did. I tried my best to be like him. We were both in the wrong for it, him for teaching me to cheat and deceive people like that. He was the reason for most of my attempts to try to live up to what he had always taught me. I screwed up, and I shouldn't cry foul when it bites me in the *s. I need to remind Dad of that very thing because he targeted a child. An innocent child was affected due to his actions. He went too far. He has to accept the fact that I didn't want this, I never wanted this, even immediately after I was hurt. I was shocked and angry that it happened, but Eren had Alpha commanded them not to harm me. I do not know how they were able to get past it, but the blame was solely on them, for their own actions, and Eren had dealt with them all swiftly. Eren and Clive protected me when they wanted to kill me. None of us knew that they were capable of what they did. Dad, I appreciate that you wanted to defend me, I do. I know that you love me, you just have always shown it with gifts, and giving me stuff. I would have liked for you to tell me that you loved me. I would rather just have had more time with you and Mom. I didn't have a great relationship with her, I was really hurt by your cheating on her. She closed herself off from both of us and stopped giving her time. She just kind of stayed to herself. Part of that I am sure was the fact that you declared open season on Raven. I had some excellent conversations with Mom, on the last 2 visits. Getting to see her more relaxed, and happy was good to see. I was looking forward to our next visit, but that is never going to happen now, is it? She gave me an extra long hug goodbye when she left the last time because she knew that there were not going to be any more goodbyes between us again. I know in my heart that she went out of her way to remind me on the last couple of visits how much she liked Cheryl. How much she pitied Cheryl for what she was going through. It was her letting me know that she knew what was happening and that she accepted the penalty for it. She pitied Cheryl because she had been their dad. She knew exactly what Cheryl was going through. She knew just how hard you had pushed her because it was past the breaking point. Mom also knew that killing her would bring about what needed to happen, you're suffering for it. You brought this on yourself, Dad. Mom couldn't tell us because the goddess wouldn't have allowed her to. So she did what she could to let me know that it was going to be okay. That she was fine with what had to happen here, that it was the goddess's will. I told him. Graham, there was a reason that I killed them all myself. I felt guilt at what had been done to Regan. I made sure that Tabitha, Jennifer, and Michael were all punished swiftly. I have mentioned to their families that they were killed because of their own actions. They were all at fault, and I made sure their families knew this. We have and will continue to protect her. I would like to point out that there has not been another issue to happen to her in the last 15 years. That is why we are taking it so seriously about the vampire problem. I want you to know, Graham, since you have such a laser focus on the faults of others, that you yourself set Regan up for this to have happened. You coddled her and spoiled her. You didn't train her, or allow her how to be able to protect herself. She needed to learn how to do that. That was the very reason that she was able to be hurt by them. Regan is a fierce fighter, and things would have ended very differently if she had been allowed to train at your pack. If she was attacked by 3 today, she would be able to take care of herself. I guarantee you that because we trained her. The fight would have been much different if you had. Regan doesn't hate the scars as you do. She considers them to be battle scars. Your ugly reminder is different for us. To us, it shows just how far she has come. They do not bother me, or Clive. We don't find them to be ugly, instead, we look at them as something for her to be proud of. She is powerful now. She is strong and smart, and she will never allow herself to be hurt like that again. That is the difference, Graham. I have known a lot of men like you, men who find value only in what they consider to be perfection. What you need to realize is that she is perfect now too, right this moment, she is perfect. I think that you might have started this whole thing as payback for her, but that is not what it ended up being, was it? I think you are an evil and malicious person, Graham. I think that you used it as an excuse. The real reason that you went this far was that you were disrespected. Blake didn't defer to you, or let Regan get away with it. Instead, he followed our laws and dealt her punishment. I think you felt it was a slap in your face, and you did what you always did. Waited for people to lower their guard, and then stab them in the back. Why else would you set it up, to where the heir would kill the next in line? I see it, even if you don't want to admit it. You would be running the show, with Garrett as the mouthpiece for you. I see you, Graham, and I know what you were doing. You were taking out both the oldest children, so you could mold Robert into what you wanted him to be. You will never change, you are not innocent in this. Your mate was the actual victim, you weren't, so stop acting like you were. You need to realize that everyone on this side of the bars, including Regan, knows exactly who you are. You can hang it up on getting out of that cell. You will either be transferred to where you will get your sentence carried out and die there, or you will die here. That is what you have to look forward to, Aaron told him. I was stunned at how strongly he told Dad off. Dad hates disrespect, any alpha does. Why Dad thought he could disrespect Aaron with what he was saying, and then be surprised at being called out was almost funny. Dad was staring at Aaron as if he had never seen him before, but Dad was in the wrong. He lied and said that Aaron didn't punish anyone when Aaron was the one who killed all 3 of them. Clive was going to do it, but Aaron was the alpha and demanded to carry out their sentence. It just shows how far gone Dad is in his thinking. I guess now that Mom is dead, he is going to lose it. He has nothing to live for, and he tried to get his freedom from here with the lies he was telling. No one believed his act at all. I couldn't believe that he had the balls to even try it. Dad cost Blake his mate and child. Dad was even planning on getting one of Blake's children to kill the other, and then have several years to run Black Moon behind the scenes. He was devious, and Aaron was right, he will never stop. Dad was sure that Blake would be crippled by the weight of guilt for what he had done to his mate. That he would go crazy from either her dying, or doing what she did, and escaping. Dad planned this whole thing out and now was like, oh well, now that it didn't work out for him. He is only scared because he knows that Blake isn't just going to kill him. He is going to make him sorry, probably for the next 7 years. I don't need to come back and hear his lies. He thinks very well on his feet and even had me believing him until Aaron piped up. I cannot believe that I felt like he was doing it to defend me. I am thankful that Aaron knew what he was doing and put an end to it. Because that is what this is, Dad is pulling out all the stops to get his freedom, and then he will be in the wind. We will never see him coming until he is here with whoever he can get to follow him and come after us. Dad is an excellent charmer, he can convince people to do almost anything he wants. He is convincing, and he seems to believe that he speaks. Like he actually believes that he is telling the truth when it is the furthest thing from it. I cannot believe that I was falling for it. Mom and I both were the ones who knew what all he was capable of, and that is the scariest part of it. He is dangerous, and I was correct, to begin with. I will not be back for him, not to visit, or speak to him. When he passes they can just burn his body, I will not want him back. He had played me for the last time. I think that it is time to play with him now. Aaron is right, and I believe that I am done here, Blake. I would like to thank you for allowing me to come and say my goodbyes to my father. I appreciate that you would allow me here, especially after what I did to you and Cheryl. Again, I would like to apologize to you for what my father has done to you and your family. It is heartbreaking to see the trail of CE that my dad leaves in his wake, as he serves his own agenda. I will not be returning again, as I have gotten my fill of lies today, and for my lifetime. Apparently, that is the only thing that my dad can speak, so there is no point in me returning here for more of the same. I forgot how good he is at it too, he almost had me believing him. I know him better than most, and he caught me up in his crazy attempt at twisting the facts to suit what he wanted me to hear. I also wanted to thank you for sharing Dad's money with me, and my children. The pack will benefit greatly from it, and I know that Mom was worried about me not being able to take care of us in the future, as she knew how Dad was with sharing his money. That is why she made him write those checks on the last 2 visits. I know she would have been very happy to see what you did and how you were able to get Dad's funds without the con man seeing the con. I know that you will be using the money to make things better for so many people, I told Blake, and he gave me a smile. He knew what I was doing now, switching gears, and he was ready to play along with me. Dad is shocked at what I said and he immediately flared back up in anger. You cannot take my money, it is my money. You cannot steal it away from me like that. Dad, if my memory serves me correctly, and I already know that it does. You have robbed and tricked so many packs. How dare you stand there and get so angry now, at getting played yourself? What can you do with it down here in the cells? Paper airplanes? You are in jail for breaking the pack laws. They don't have a gift shop down here for you to use. I remember you're laughing at the little additions that you used to add to the deals and agreements you wrote up. Ones where you changed the amounts of what they would get to a lesser amount, but your cut and repayment stayed the same. You have cheated at least 100 people doing that. As a matter of fact, you did it so much that no one would deal with you anymore. You are a cheat and a liar, and that fact is well known. You got rich off of doing things like that. I will start off with getting a fence built for Blood Tracker, and then see if I can repay the funds to the people you robbed. I will even do it in your name. I guess I don't have to hide anymore, because your little plan got the council to know where we are. So before I get picked up, I guess I will be like a little fairy and grant their wish of getting their money back from you. It will be the least I can do for them. I will use my half of the money to make things right, I told him, and his whole face is almost purple in his fury. I don't know what his problem is, fair is fair. He really doesn't need it down here, what was he going to do? Use it as wallpaper? I think that is an excellent idea, Reagan, and I am willing to give you 5 million of my half of the money for the perimeter fence for your pack. That way you don't overextend yourself by making it right for others. I bet he cheated a lot of people with all he used to do. I researched him after you all had arrived. Other than him having an excellent head for business, there was nothing else positive about him. He clearly hasn't learned his lesson either. He would rather keep it, even if he is stuck in the cells. I hate to tell you, Graham, but it is no longer your money. It is now, our money, Blake said, and I nodded at him. I appreciate him doing that. We absolutely need the fence around the perimeter. That is good, as I have no idea at all how much Dad owes these other packs. I truly may be more than I will get. I guess after I call and speak to Raven, I already know I will have to contact the council next. I will have to see if they can look up all the complaints against Dad, so I can make it right and give those packs their money back. If you steal my money, you ungrateful BH, don't bother coming back here. You are no longer my daughter, I heard Dad tell me as I stood up from the chair. I had to give a little laugh, as his money has been gone from him for days. He has no more power now, he is literally waiting to die. That is the best news I have heard all day, Graham. I am sorry that we are related, as well. I knew you were bad, but I never knew you were willing to sacrifice an innocent child to achieve a position of power again. You are the last person to be in charge of anything. I am ashamed of what you have done to further your own agenda with a plan so disgusting that you ended up killing my mother to achieve it. You are the very reason that she is dead, and you just kept pushing and pushing, didn't you? You pushed Cheryl to the breaking point. It was not her fault that she had to do what she needed to escape and save her son. That is totally on you. You are a despicable man, and now these women will suffer as bait for the vampires because you included them in your great idea, didn't you, Graham? I hope you suffer every day for what you have done. I know the goddess will not be letting you worm your way out of it this time, I told him and walked away. I needed to get out of here. My dad was screaming and cussing repulsive things at me, as he wanted to have the last word. The women were being handcuffed to be transported to Blood Tracker, and they were in various stages of yelling, crying, and cussing as their time here is up. Blake led us out, and Clive held my hand as we went up the stairs. At the top, after the door closed, I finally allowed my tears to flow freely. That really hurt, and I see that his real love was his money. I have lost both of my parents now. It didn't matter that he disowned me because I had already decided to let him go. I was done. Done with the lies, and the throwing the blame on anyone but him. He is a piece of slime, and I am scraping him off of my shoe right now. The girls were led past us by the warriors, and taken to the SUV, and I felt bad for them, but they were sentenced to death. Their own actions were the reason for it. We just had to pick Mom up, and we were leaving. I don't ever want to come back here to Black Moon again, for any reason. Chapter 136 Raven's POV. I was having a great visit with Cheryl today. She has felt a lot better after getting to see Blake the other day. Anyone looking at him could tell that he is not sleeping well, and is clearly missing her very much. He looked absolutely miserable, and I hate saying it, but I was glad to see it. It meant that he realized just how badly he had messed up. He looked like a man desperate to make things right for Cheryl, and I hope he does. Knowing that he was just as affected by her leaving made her feel better, I am sure. She obviously still loved him, and I know that it lifted her spirits to hear him begging her to come back. He had started off right, he had put Graham in his cells. I already knew what he was going to find when he went back to check out what I told him had happened. Justin and Brandon both agreed with me and said that they were sure he had been drugged too. For Blake to have held out against Graham, who was full tilt pushing him to cheat. It showed us all how much he loved her, for him to hold out for over 2 years. He held out because he knew that he couldn't come back from it, if he did cross her bottom line. We knew that he would have liked to stay and speak more with Cheryl and Kevin, but once he realized what Graham had done, he had to go back home immediately to check. Cheryl is still shy around the doctor, and he is already giving her some gentle flirting as he comes by to check her vitals. For some reason she has it in her head that he just said that in front of Blake to try to dissuade him from coming back here for Cheryl. But I know the real reason, and it has nothing at all to do with Blake. I was proud of Dr. Max, and I was wondering how he got so bold as to directly challenge an alpha. Most men would have listened to an alpha ordering them to back off, but not Dr. Max. He took it in stride, and deliberately tried to piss Blake off. If it hadn't been such a serious occasion, I might have laughed when it happened. But I will not be supporting one over the other. That choice is Cheryl's alone, and she is the only one who knows the route to take. Blake is trying to win us over, and he was off to a good start. He repaid the funds, even though we hadn't asked him to. It was a nice surprise, and it went directly into the weapons budget. I consider it ironic, as we very well may be using the new guns and ammunition against his own pack. But we are getting closer to the end, and things can turn very serious any time now. We need to be prepared, as we don't want to lose any of our pack members in this upcoming war. But with monthly training, it is a good thing to have a surplus on ammunition, as we need it for the trainings. It was a nice surprise just falling into our lap like that. Justin loved his new weapon that Blake had sent, and had been out there training with it the same day it arrived. He had the Fab Five with him, as I like to call them now. Jax, Liam, Chase, Dex, and Kevin are all joined together at the hip. If you see one of them coming, the others will soon be in your line of vision. They all loved the crossbow too, and Justin was great at teaching them on it. They all wanted one now. Brandon was very happy at the benefit of him being able to use some of the free money that Blake had given him to be able to make that happen. Cheryl had been given 2 beautiful azaleas, and she loved them. Clearly he knew her favorite color, as sometimes I see her looking at them, with a smile on her face. They made her happy, and I was glad that she liked them. She was less happy at the cards that came with them. Just 2 short messages, but she didn't throw the cards away. She kept them with the plants on the card holder, and seemed to be thinking sometimes when we are sitting in an easy silence. I liked my plant too, and as soon as Brandon and Justin saw how much I reacted to them, they had more delivered from a local nursery. I do love purple, and he must have got that from my workout outfit I wore that day. At least he was observant. That will play in his favor for Cheryl, as he is clearly paying attention now. I hope it can work out between them, but it is going to be a long hard road to get them straightened out from all that had happened between them. I see he is willing to try, and as hard as he possibly can. We all know a bribe when we see one. Blake just isn't aware that we will not be stepping in to intervene for him. He is trying to make amends. I can support Cheryl while she navigates her way through this. I think that she, and Kevin, will both be needing counseling for them to attempt to work through this. He really did a number on them both, allowing Graham to get into his head like that. Graham was dangerous, and I have no idea how he managed to worm his way in like that. He should have known how dangerous he was from him having to run from the council. There was a reason he was being hunted down like he was. Blake was foolish to trust him, and learned a hard lesson for it. Cheryl knew how he was and should have warned him. She said she did, but she also said that Graham was different after they arrived at Black Moon. He was not his normal cocky self. Maybe them being on the run helped him realize he was not bulletproof, like he thought he was. His waiting so long to put a plan in play, and going so slowly on this was the most dangerous part. He wanted to dig his roots in deep, and it worked out for him. This was a devious plan from the start, but for Graham to have targeted Kevin in this, had us all pissed off. It was disgusting what he had thought of doing, and he deserved whatever punishment that Blake gave him for it. We had stepped back, and Dad had spoken with council member Emerson about Graham. They took down the monthly bolo on the group, because they knew exactly where they were now. It will not be sent out in the coming month anymore. I still feel a ping in my heart when I think about my mom. She could have reached out, with a letter or something, if she wanted to. I kind of itched she had. It would have meant more for me to hear it from her own lips, than to come from Cheryl. Not that I did not appreciate her telling me, I did. I guess I would have just liked to hear her voice one more time, and in a positive light. I have never heard her speak kindly to me, and now I never will. She could have mailed a letter with no return address on it. But I know that she always deferred to Dad on things like this. What he said goes, and he would not have wanted her to do that. I was a mistake from the beginning, as far as he was concerned. If he had known I existed in the first place, he would have probably left Mom back at the mating ball he found her at. I realized right then how completely different my life would have been, if Graham would have known that when she mated with my father, that she was carrying his pup. He would not have taken her, or accepted her, because he would have considered her tainted. I think that her having a pup from each of them, bothered him way more than any of us knew. I would have had both my parents if Graham had left her alone, and I would have been loved. I would have been cared for and treated well. I would not have had to run and hide on the way to and from school. I wouldn't have had Reagan as the bane of my existence. I wouldn't have had to hide in my room to be safe from the pack. The thought of that reminds me that all Graham had to do after I was born, was just give me to my father. It would have been over for him the moment he did. No more living in fear of what my father would do to him if he ever found out that he kept me at Silver Blade. He wouldn't have to worry about being punished for his own dumb choices he made by keeping me hidden there. But I cannot live there in regrets and what-ifs. I know that the goddess had plans for me, and that I was molded into the woman that I have become, because of what I went through. I knew how to be a better mother because of Olivia accepting and loving me from the moment she met me. She is my mother now, and has been for the 15 years that I have known her. I am better for having Olivia as my mother, as my biological mother, was just not the outgoing or friendly type. Maybe if she had not been looking for what she thought were green pastures, she would have realized why the goddess put her with my father. That between her bloodline, and his, that they would have created some of the strongest pups around. I heard my name being called and I looked at Cheryl, who was looking directly at me, with a frown on her face. I wonder how many times she had to call my name before I heard her speaking to me. "Are you all right? You seem to be far away right now," Cheryl said to me. "Yeah, I am fine. I just got caught up in my thoughts. The thing with Graham and what he has done. What he has done to you and Blake. He needs to be killed for all the wolves he has hurt. He has cost a lot of people different things, money, their packs, and worse of all, their lives. I hate that Cassandra had to pay the price for him, but I understood why. I honestly do. Please do not feel like that was aimed at you at all, it wasn't. I know that the goddess herself probably had her hand in it. It finally caught up to him, as he has lost everything now. He will have to live with what he has done, and hopefully Blake will let him know that the only person to blame for him losing his mate, is himself. He made up this whole misplaced, evil plan out to get you, and I hope that he is pleased with how it actually played out, as he will die in Blake's cells, at Blake's hands, I told Cheryl. Knowing that this has got to be the very worst of all of his plans he has ever attempted. I am glad that Cheryl was the one to defeat him, when he tried to ruin her life like he had. He got quite a few blows in of his own, but she defeated him, and got the last laugh. That is the best part of it, and if we can get it done, I would like to go see him, in the cells with Cheryl. As soon as she is healthy again. I think that would help her get past all of this, much quicker, if she were to see him being the one suffering the consequences of his actions now. Yes, I would love to get to see him in the cells myself. I know for a fact that Blake is going to make him suffer. I think that Graham got used to how Blake is now, instead of thinking about how he used to be. I am no longer there to keep him calm. I still can't believe that he thought the pack being punished if he were to go on rampage for me running away, was a valid reason for me to come back. It is not. They showed their true colors after Blake announced I had cheated on him. From that moment on, it was like they all hated me. Like they had just been waiting on a chance to let me know that they were glad I had finally been found out. Especially the she-wolves that had crushes on him. They were coming out of the woodwork, and that was the hardest part. Seeing them throwing themselves at Blake, right in front of me. He didn't shoot them down either, he liked the pain that it caused me, he just didn't cross a line with them, not then. He used them as tools to hurt me more, as he waited for me to finally lose it. That was the worst part. The years of being told I was not worthy of him, how he made a mistake in choosing me. It tore me down piece by piece. I know what his plan was, but the years of being bullied and disrespected, were worse than the physical betrayal. At least that pain was temporary. The pain of his words, on a daily basis, year after year, that is what really hurt, Cheryl told me, and I could feel her pain. She glanced over at the plants he had sent her. I can see the tears in her eyes as she tries to hide them from me by looking away. Yet, he has got some mountains to climb before he is going to be forgiven. I can see how conflicted she is right now. She does love him. Real love for your partner doesn't just go away quickly. You have to keep reminding yourself what they did, and the lack of care they had when they did it. Even today, sometimes the pain that Justin gave me will raise its head, and remind me. I know that it is not him any longer, but the fact remains that he had hurt me, and badly. Brandon hurt me too. Those memories don't happen frequently, but they do pop up, and when it does, the hurt is almost as fresh as when it originally happened. I love them both dearly, they mean the world to me. But sometimes when you have been hurt by the one you love, it just stays there in your heart waiting for the opportunity to remind you that it could happen again. The fear that comes with that warning, is where the real danger lies. Thankfully, I will not give it space to live there. I tamp it down again when it does pop up, and tell it that it is a liar, because I have faith in my mates. Raven, are you with Cheryl? I heard Brandon's voice in my head through the link. He knew I was going to be here today, so I wonder what he needs. Before I can respond, he continues, and he is speaking quickly. I don't know how to say this, other than to just come out with it. Reagan is on the phone. She wants to talk to you, and also to Cheryl. If you don't want to talk to her, I will take care of it. But she seems nice, but insistent, on speaking with you both. Brandon linked me. Whatever I thought he was going to say, it was not this. I never expected that I would ever speak to her again in my life. To say that I was stunned, is an understatement. I will allow it, but the first time she goes to be her usual self, I am hanging up, and blocking her number. I will speak to her. Go ahead and give her my cell number. I linked back to him. I took a moment to prepare myself before telling Cheryl that a phone call was coming, and it was going to be Reagan on the line. I can see her stiffen up. She already knows that this will not be good. Cheryl killed Cassandra, and since Reagan wants to talk to her too, we are almost positive that she is going to want to go off on Cheryl for killing our mother. Reagan will then probably want to go off on me for allowing her to stay here. But whatever it is, I will be nice, until she says something to push me to not be nice anymore. My phone rings a minute later, and after taking a deep breath, I answered the phone. Hello, I said. Raven. I can hear Reagan's voice come out over through the speaker. She sounds older, but still the same. Yes, hello Reagan, I answered her back. Different emotions come flying back at hearing her voice, and the main one was all the bullying that she did to me. All the hateful comments that I thought had long been dealt with are suddenly right here on the surface. I am blinking back the tears from the bad memories that are now swirling around in my head. She has been the cause of more bad memories than I can count. I may allow the tears to fall, but she will never hear me cry over the phone. Hey, Raven. I am sorry for bothering you. I won't take up a lot of your time, I just called to tell you how sorry I am for everything. I was a horrible sister, and I cannot tell you how regretful I am about it. I am calling the council next. I will be paying whatever fine, or accepting whatever punishment that they want to give me. But I wanted to start by talking to you. I know it is too late for you to forgive me. I have done so many things wrong to you, and I hate that I just followed along blindly to what Graham wanted. I finally saw today, just how warped he really is, when I gave him my goodbyes. I was picking up Mom's body, she will be buried at my pack, blood tracker. I am just mentioning it in case you ever want to come to pay your respects. I heard what he had done, and I only agreed to speak with him because I wanted him to know that I knew he was the reason that our mom was dead. He was never going to acknowledge his fault and involvement in it. He needed to be told, he can deny it all he wants, but he is the reason, and I am disgusted by his actions. Reagan's voice rang out into the room. Both Cheryl and I were too shocked to speak. This sounded like Reagan's voice, but I have never heard her acknowledge any fault of her own, or speak badly about Graham. She had him at hero level, as far as she was concerned. He never did anything wrong in her opinion. Any punishment that I received, she made sure to mention that I earned it, just like he said. Whatever he mentioned to her, she tried to do. She wanted to be like him all her life, and she became just like him. But right now, with her admitting her own fault and mistakes that she made, she didn't sound like him anymore. I have to say that it seems like she may have changed for the better. Raven, are you there? I heard Reagan's voice cut into my thoughts. Yes, I am still here with Cheryl in the Pack Hospital, I answered her. Good, because I needed to tell her something too. Can she hear me? Reagan asked, and I am almost too scared to respond to her. I know that we both want to know what else she is going to say, and we are scared for Cheryl as she is still very weak. I don't know if she can handle it or not. Before I can respond, I heard Cheryl's voice ring out strong in response. Yes, Reagan, I can hear you. What would you like to say to me? No, we both wait to hear if this is where Reagan shows her true colors again. Because we both know her, we know who she is at her core. If there is one thing that we both know, it is the fact that Reagan has never missed an opportunity to hurt someone else, when she could. I am holding my breath as I waited for Reagan's response, as this will be the real test of whether or not Reagan had truly changed, or not. Chapter 137 Raven's POV. Cheryl, I am so sorry for what I did to you at Black Moon. I was a spoiled little brat back then, who was super jealous that Blake picked you. I had an inflated sense of value as I thought that I deserved to be the Luna at Black Moon, but when Blake gave the position to you, it pissed me off. I was envious of how much he liked you, and bitter that you got the position that I had wanted my whole life. Back then I was so petty, and I was wrong for what I did. I went way too far, and I deserved the punishment I got from Blake. I just wanted to reach out to thank you for trying to talk him out of it. Even though I had hurt you badly, you were a much better friend to me than I was to you. For that, I am truly sorry. We both know I had earned what I got. I also wanted to apologize to you for what Graham did. After I told him how wrong he was for what he did to people that were innocent in this vendetta of his, he no longer wanted me to visit with him. He is still his same old self, and he almost had me convinced that he had only stepped in because he wanted to give payback for the injuries and scars that I sustained at Blood Tracker. It just goes to show that he will never change. He could care less about me, or anyone else. He was just mad that Blake didn't bend when he tried to control him, Reagan said to us. I noticed that she is calling him Graham, not Dad, and she always called him Dad. The anger she feels towards him is unusual because Reagan always knew that her supporting Graham resulted in her getting whatever she wanted from him. She is clearly upset, but it is not aimed at me, or Cheryl. It seems to just be solely focused on Graham. She is sad, but trying to cover it up, and I know that she had to stop speaking too, because she was overwhelmed right now too. This was a much more emotional conversation than I thought it was going to be. I honestly thought she would start going off on us both, and I was going to dump the line on her. This was not at all what I thought she would be saying. I appreciate you apologizing for it, Reagan, but it was 15 years ago. I have much more difficult obstacles to deal with now, but I thank you for calling to tell me that, Cheryl said to Reagan. Neither of us knew if she was done talking, or was just overcome on the phone. I am also sure that before Reagan does switch to what she was wanting to say, Cheryl wanted to just end the call. Cheryl has been punishing herself for killing them, and she is just sick about it. If Reagan were to engage with her in a hostile manner, I know that Cheryl will sustain another setback. I don't want to put her through it. I am sorry, Cheryl. I am still here. I was upset and had to take a break from speaking. I was told this morning by Aaron what had happened to you and your family, on the way to Black Moon. I didn't know what he had done. I never asked him to do anything on my behalf. I wanted you to know that, to hear it from me, as I never wanted you or your family to be hurt. Especially not on my behalf. I am in a good place and just wanted to live drama-free. What happened to me 15 years ago is over and done with. I am happy and content in my life right now. I love my children and my mate, and I am grateful for what I have. I hate what Graham did. I told him how wrong he was for doing what he did to you and Blake. I also told him how disgusting I thought his acts against your family were. My father is a manipulative person. He had an issue with Blake and wanted to take him down as a result of it. You and your son were collateral damage, all because my father wanted to destroy him, Reagan told us. We were silent with her, as we heard the background noise in the vehicle that she was in, so we knew that she was still there. I can tell that she is really upset over what happened. Enough for her to stick her neck out to speak with us both. She felt she needed to do this, even if it was going to potentially get her in hot water with us, and the council. I also wanted to tell you that I am not upset with what you had to do to get yourself to freedom. I already know that you were forced to do it, and I would have done the same thing to protect my pup too. I will tell you like I just told them in the cells this morning. Mom knew, she knew that she was going to die that day. Mom was never a big talker, Raven can attest to that. But the last 2 visits that I have with her, were really great. She opened up to me a lot more. She told me that she was proud of me, and that is never something she had ever said to me before. She told me to continue to make good choices as something was about to happen that would cause me to change my course. I just wanted you to know that, Cheryl. I wanted you to know that she already knew what that day held for her, and she came anyway. I know you are a good person, and I know that you must be mired in guilt. I wanted you to know that she willingly went with you to do what the goddess told her to do. She also told me that we were descendants of the moon goddess, Raven. I was surprised to hear it. Mom never mentioned it to me ever before. But on her monthly visit 2 months ago, she told me. She told me about how the goddess came to her in a dream and told her that she was one of her children. Regan told us. Thank you for reaching out to tell me that, Regan. I was feeling terrible guilt for what I had done to Cassandra and the male warrior. I had gotten to know your mother a lot better in the last few months. She knew the pain of what I was going through with Blake and his girlfriends. She was a nice lady. Yes, she didn't hang out and talk a whole lot, you were correct about that. But lately, she had been speaking a lot more freely than she normally did. I was happy to be able to share experiences with her. She felt terrible for me and knew that I had no one except my son in my corner. She was the one who had told me that I needed to do what was best for my child. I think that she knew what Graham had planned for me too, and was trying to help encourage me to escape. She knew Blake was watching me, and not allowing me to leave Black Moon, without a security detail to prevent me from leaving the pack. It was hard to kill Cassandra and that one warrior. It was easier to kill Kara. She had been terrible to me the previous year. She was the main one to flirt with Blake. He always allowed her to touch him because it upset me. I had to get out of there. I was wasting away. Kevin was going to be killed, and nothing would have been done about it. Thank you for telling me that you honestly thought she knew. When it came time to do it, she was the last one, and I truly didn't want to do it. She never said a word to me, just silently watched me. If she had said a word, or asked me to spare her, I was not going to be able to go through with it. It really seemed to me like she knew that. She just gave me a nod, like she was telling me to go ahead and do it. I tried to make it quick for her. I will never forget that day for the rest of my life. It was horrible, but I knew I was dying, and I had to get Kevin to safety, Cheryl told Regan. I knew you were not well. Aaron said you looked very ill the last time he was there, but I didn't know that you were dying. I am quite sure the stress you were under with the bullying and being cheated on was enough. I cannot begin to understand having to fear for your own child's life every minute of the day on top of it. To not know when the attack will happen, just knowing that it will happen. The worst part is that the one who Graham was brainwashing and grooming was inside your own home. I am proud of you for getting your son to safety. I want you to know that I saw Blake today. He allowed me onto Black Moon Pack lands to get my mother. I also want you to know that he had put all the women who colluded with my father and drugged him, were in the cells as well. I was not going to mention this to you, but their sentence that they will pay will be a heavy one. I do not think that he will mention it, as his only focus right now is getting you and your son to come back to him. I am not telling you this to talk you into coming home. I saw how bad he looked, and I know he is furious with them all right now. It is shown in what he has planned for the women. Graham had thought that if they got caught, that Blake would sentence them to death and kill them quickly. That is not what is going to happen. They are going to suffer a terrible death. Blake has already told Graham that he will too. He believes him now that the women got their sentence, Regan told us, and we could hear someone speaking in the background to her. There was about a minute-long pause before she was back on the phone again speaking to us. We are almost back to our pack, so after we arrive you will be hearing the evidence of Blake's plans for yourself. We have had an issue for the last several days with vampires. They showed up one night and killed 2 of our warriors. The next night, Aaron ended up losing his true mate, and their son. They knew she was the Luna, and they still killed her. Aaron and Clive were fighting with the 2 men, and the female was after Aaron's son. One of them is alleging that I am his mate, but they lie, and I do not trust him. He has given me an ultimatum that he would be back in 3 days, to take me with him, or they will consider us as a threat and exterminate us. I am sure that he will be back tonight. I can feel it, but we have as many measures of protection in place as we can get. We do not have the protection of a perimeter wall around my pack, and I am concerned for the safety of my family. I do not know how this will go, so I wanted to make sure that I reached out to both you and Cheryl today. I wanted to tell you both how sorry I was for what I have done to each of you. I can see that it was me being the problem this whole time. I was entitled, spoiled, and thought I deserved whatever I wanted. I am ashamed of what I did to you both, Regan tells us. I am horrified at what she just said about the vampires. They can be vicious, but there has been peace between us and vampires for 10 years. There have been no attacks on packs that have been noted or advised of by the council. So this must be a rogue cell of vampires. I feel like I need to help them out with this, and glanced up at hearing the door open. I see Brandon, and Justin, both standing in the doorway looking at me. I am sure they came to check on me, as my emotions have been all over the place. I wonder how long they have been standing at the door, and how much they have heard. I see motion behind them and I watch as Kevin slips between Brandon and Justin to enter the room. He comes up to his mother and holds her hand. She is upset, but not by Regan's words. Regan was actually very nice. It was a surprise, as she was the total opposite of who she used to be, and I am glad. Are you sure you are prepared, Regan? We can help, I know we can help you with this. The vampires have an agreement with the Werewolf Council, they are our allies now and have been for the last 10 years. They are not going to allow these rogue vampires to ruin the agreement that so many of us, and them as well, have worked hard to make a fair and just treaty for us both to live by. There has not been an attack in a long time, and it is because of the treaty in place. We have friends that can help us with this. You do not have to do this alone. I would like to get to know this new Regan and meet my nieces and nephews. I do not want something to happen to you, I told her, and Brandon and Justin nodded at what I said. They are not mad enough at her anymore to allow her to die at the hands of the vampires. I don't want that either. Do not worry about me, Raven. I would be happy to meet you and for our children to get to meet each other. I have heard that you have a number of pups yourself too. I have made a lot of changes in my life, and I can protect myself now. I am raising my children to be self-sufficient as well and to take care of their siblings. They can also fight, but I am trying to keep them out of this situation for their own safety. None of them are like I used to be, they are not spoiled at all. My oldest son will be the next alpha here, and he is a great teenager. He is smart and caring and is the best big brother to his younger siblings. I am so proud of all of them, so I will fight to stay here with them. I cannot protect them if I go with Draven, so I won't. I will stay and fight, and pray to the goddess that we are able to protect ourselves. As I said, Blake passed down the death sentence for these women for drugging him, as is his right. They will be armed with cyanide tablets and will take them at the first sight of the vampires. The vampires will get sick from drinking from them, and we are then going to stake them in the heart while they are affected by the cyanide. Our plan is to then chop off their heads, and set them on fire, before spreading the ashes. We have a plan, but you are right, it isn't a great one. It could go wrong at so many levels. Aaron is trying to get help from a local alpha, but no concrete plans had been made yet, Reagan tells us. Can you give me 30 minutes to see what we can do on this end? We should be able to help Blood Tracker out. Is this your cell number? I would like to be able to call you back and let you know what we have come up with. I asked Reagan. It is, but this isn't your fight, it is ours, and we kind of have a plan in place. It will be dusk in 5 hours now, so I do not think that you have time to do anything at all. Also, I was not calling you to get any of you involved in it, Raven. We will be fine, we have managed to get this far. I know it isn't perfect, as I really feel bad for these women, it is a bad way to go, and I wish we had a way around it. But he was furious at them for having drugged him repeatedly, and more so at how much they hurt Cheryl for their selfish actions. He wanted them to feel the same pain and anger over their punishment. I can guarantee you all that they feel it already. They are driving the warriors in the SUV behind us crazy with their crying and screaming about their fate. Thankfully we will be home soon, as I can understand why the men want to be free of the women. I would not want to be in their shoes right now, it would be a horrible way to die, Reagan replied. I looked up at Cheryl, and I cannot read her expression. She is feeling several things right now, and her face just looks confused as she hasn't settled on how she feels about this situation. I can see that Kevin is upset as he now knows that Blake was at his worst because he was not in control of himself. That does not excuse his earlier behavior, but it does show a pattern of where Graham was leading him to where he wanted him. Blake was working from a position of being used and manipulated the whole time too, and it makes him a victim in this whole thing too. Blake never stood a chance against him because Graham is an expert at doing this very thing. Graham used Blake's possessive and jealous nature to lead him where he wanted him to go. I can see that he is still very angry with his father, but not as angry as he had been. Kevin can see from what he was hearing over the phone that Blake had not called to tell Cheryl this, and he may never have mentioned it. Reagan said that he probably wouldn't. He was just trying to make things right as much as he could, and them not being there at Black Moon was a great start. The law is clear, and if death is what he sentenced them to, then that is the sentence that needs to be carried out. Maybe he just needs to let us help them, and he can have them killed in a less violent and scary way. I stepped out of the room to speak with Brandon and Justin about this, as Reagan was right, we do not have a whole lot of time before nightfall. We need to get moving now on it as we have about 5 hours before dusk. I will go and call Carson and see what he can do to help us, Brandon said and walked away to head back to his office. I will call Selma, and see if she can get us some scent masking spray made up for us quickly. I have 1 container of it right now, but that will only take care of 3 people for just a few hours, we will need a lot more. She can get started on it now, and we can pick it up on the way there. I can use my crossbow, and arrows that I just got on the vampires. They are silent and much better than trying to use guns on them, Justin said and walked away to make the calls. I feel like I need to call Blake and tell him to not do that to them. I don't like them, there is no love lost between us, but that is a horrible way to go. I would not wish that on anyone, but it does indeed make me aware that he is actively making big changes at Black Moon. I am very glad to hear that Graham has been put into the cells. If we can help the women, I would rather he just kill them in the normal way, or just banish them. I think that the way he was going to do it, would be a horrible way to die for them. I just don't think they deserve quite that much punishment. I think it is Graham himself that deserves a death like that, but not today. I agree with Blake letting him suffer for a while like he made me suffer. I guess I will call him on my old phone. I kept it since you went back and got it. I will unblock his number to make the call. I just didn't want him calling me every day to try to charm me, Cheryl said to the room. I gave her space to speak to Blake, and Kevin stayed in the room with his mom while she made the call. I was going to go to Blood Tracker with Brandon and Justin. I was not going to stay here while they went to take care of the vampire problem. Where they go, I will go. I am going to ask Angie and Jackson if they could watch the children because Truett will be acting alpha tonight with us gone. I started to make plans and I was glad that Angie and Jackson were more than happy to have the grandchildren. They will only need to have the youngest ones, as Stella just texted me and said that she was going to have the Fab Five join her family for dinner and then let all the boys have a sleepover together. I am sure that we will be able to help them. Hopefully, we will be able to take care of the vampire problem for them tonight. Because if there is a chance to have a relationship with the Reagan that I spoke to today, then I want to give it a try. I just can't let her get taken by these rogue vampires. I cannot imagine what her fate would be. Chapter 138 Reagan's POV. I appreciated Raven wanting to help, but I have no idea how they possibly could. We have been trying to deal with them for days, with very little success on our part. What could they possibly hope to accomplish in about 5 hours' time? It seems like it would be an impossible feat. I cannot see where they will be able to make any real difference at all against these vampires. But I appreciate her thinking that they would like to help us out with this. As expected, the women got even louder when they arrived and were unloaded, to be taken straight to the cells. They were pleading with anyone who would listen and were offering things that I didn't want my children to hear. All in an effort to get out of what awaited them. I don't blame them. It is a bad way to go. I feel bad for them, but I do not want this issue with the vampires to continue on. They will just keep coming, and getting more vicious with each visit. I do not want them to hurt my fellow pack members, especially not my children. I cannot allow them to hurt my children. I was surprised to get a call back at the 45-minute mark. The call was later than she promised. I had already figured that she just wasn't going to call me back, but she apologized for her being late right off the bat. I guess she did feel bad about it if she was going to lead with an apology. We both know that this is a tentative renewal of our relationship. Just like my reaching out to her had surprised Raven. Her immediate willingness to help us with our problem and return my call was also a surprise. I am glad that she wants us to reconnect with each other as much as I do. I am excited about my children getting to meet her, and her children, as well. Reagan, I am sorry I am late. We had to get things straight here, to come and help you with your issue. We will have others with us when we arrive in a little less than an hour from now. Are you with Aaron? Can you explain to him that we will have 5 SUVs with us? We want to help, and I believe that we can solve your vampire problem tonight if you will allow us to, Raven said with confidence, and I was too stunned to reply. How could they help us right off the bat, with no real time to research the problem? It seems almost too good to be true. I looked up at Aaron, as we were all in his office speaking about how we needed to proceed for tonight when the call came in. I am here, Raven. I would be glad to get help here, but I don't know how you can guarantee the problem is going to be able to be taken care of. This group is incredibly fast, we cannot outrun them. They are also smart, cunning, and strong. The one who speaks for the group said he was 400 years old. How could we figure out something that he hasn't ever seen before? We would be very grateful for the assistance, but I don't want to put you and your people in danger. They will all be in danger here with us. You almost cannot see them coming when they are running. We are still trying to figure out how to use the women that Blake was putting to death in our favor. They are being punished, but other than securing them to something that prevents them from running away, we are at a loss. Plus, we all feel bad for them, as they are in a hopeless situation. They did indeed break the law, and punishment needs to be given out for it. We just feel like it needs to be done a better way than this. Aaron spoke to us, and I nodded in agreement, as we felt the same way. Do not worry, we have a plan ourselves. I will call when we get closer to your pack so you can meet us at the gate, but we are on our way now. Cheryl spoke to Blake and got him to agree to not kill the women by using them as prey for the vampires. It probably would not have worked anyway. We have the equipment and tools with us that are needed to get this done. We also have a secret weapon with us, so I can almost guarantee you that we can solve the problem tonight. Do not worry, just get ready to secure the pack like you have been doing after we arrive. I just needed to ask one question to make sure I got the name correct. Reagan, did you say it was a vampire named Draven? Did he have blonde hair, and handsome, by any chance? Raven asked, and I am surprised that she knew what he looked like. It was a damn good guess. Yes, sandy blonde hair, to his neck, and red eyes. Yes, if he weren't a vampire, he would be handsome. He is the one who always speaks. I also wanted to tell you that they will be out for blood tonight. One of our warriors had stabbed the other male, Corbin, who had dark-colored hair, and his sister Nyx is also in the group, and she has dark-colored hair too. He did mention that he may be bringing more of them with him when he returns to our pack. So I don't know how many they might actually have with them tonight. It is usually the 3 of them, but he did threaten me that if I didn't come willingly, he would bring many more here and kill the whole pack. That was why I wanted you to stay away. I wanted to get to see you in a safe way, not with this threat hanging over us. You can stay at my house, that way you can meet the children. I answered her. I would love that. Brandon and Justin will be out with the others to eradicate the problem. I believe that Blake may coincidentally show up, as well, as he heard we are coming. Cheryl is coming with us too. She wants to make sure the women are not killed by the vampires. Blake did not seem to want to agree with what she was asking him. We have some warriors with us, as there could be an altercation between Blake and a member of our group. Cheryl has gotten stronger lately but was not cleared from the hospital yet. Her doctor is coming with us as well, just in case. He and Blake do not see eye to eye. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't get the name of the vampire that was chasing you and giving you a hard time wrong. I will try to make sure that there are no problems coming about during our visit. I believe that part of the reason why Cheryl came was that she is going to want to stop on the way back home and speak to Graham. I have to admit that I would like to speak to him as well tomorrow. I am sure that he will not be happy to see either of us, so that makes me want to do it even more. It was the main reason that Cheryl came. She wants him to know that he didn't completely break her with all the plans he made. Raven told us. I have to nod in agreement at her comment. I wouldn't mind going with them too, just for it to be a trifecta of people he does not want to see. I wouldn't mind tagging along with the group if you two don't mind. I think it would completely ruin his day, and that would truly make mine. I told Raven. I heard a laugh and then Raven's voice saying, I would be glad for you to go with us. It would be great to see him at his lowest point and for him to know that we are all better off without him. So, it will actually be 4 people showing up to ruin his day, not just us 3. If you are okay with that, Raven said, and I stiffened up a little bit. That last time I saw Alpha Cole in person, he threw me, and my family into his cells. I know he stepped down a long time ago, and his son Carter is running things now. I feel that familiar feeling again, as I try to keep calm at the thought of Carter. I struggled with the knowledge that if I hadn't been following my father, and trying to force things, I could have been with my true mate. I cared for my first mate, the warrior, very much. Dad forced me to give him up, as he said that my mate wasn't from good enough stock to be the alpha of Silver Blade. I believed him and rejected him. I chose Justin as my mate for that reason. Dad liked him. Justin was strong and handsome and he made sense to be the next alpha. But the feelings that I felt when I saw Carter were so strong. It really hurt to lose him. I realize that I will be seeing Justin today and my face gets even redder. This may be a very trying night for me, actually. Clive raises my hand to his mouth and gives it a kiss. He gets my focus on him, and I calmed down. I was about to have an episode, and he realized that it was about to happen. He always takes care of me, and I do not doubt his love for me for a moment. I know that he knew exactly why I got upset, and I didn't have to explain a thing to him. He probably realized what the problem would be before I did. He was listening to the conversation too, along with Darren. But Clive knows my whole story. What I have done, and how I felt about the really terrible things that I have done in my life. He never judges me. He always reminds me that no one is perfect and that I am not the person he met so long ago. That I am a better she-wolf all the way around for what I have been through, and he is always proud of me. I have overcome a lot, according to him, and he could not love me more for it. He is always on my side, and he has never made me feel bad about my situation. From day one he was enamored of me, and a flirt. He was the one that I wanted to be with if I had a choice in the matter. I didn't at first, but these three men are very protective of me. We have a kind of bond together, even when two of them had mates. I know I can count on them to protect me and our children. Now it is only Darren who has his chosen mate, Judy, in the picture. I am sure that Aaron and Clive will protect me as best they can for the rest of my life. Are you okay, Reagan? I heard Raven on the phone. Yes, sorry. I was lost in thought, remembering some things. I guess I need to go ahead and apologize to Alpha Cole, Brandon, and Justin. I just didn't realize that it would come about quite so quickly for me. My only intention of calling you was just in case something happened to me when the vampires returned here tonight. I was just wanting to let you know that I was truly sorry, and I wanted to make sure both you and Cheryl heard it from my own lips. It means less hearing it from someone else. Mom mentioned that she was the sorriest about the fact that she didn't call you and tell you herself. That you were going to hear it from Cheryl, that what happened to you was her biggest regret. She stopped speaking so much when we were kids because of it. I never knew that until she recently told me. Graham got pissed when she tried to defend you and kept the pressure on her until she complied with what he wanted. She felt bad for it for all these years. I feel like it was part of the reason that she fully complied with what the goddess wanted. Even though that must have been a very hard thing to do, knowing that you are going to die. Since the goddess knew everything that went on to get Mom to this place, I am sure Mom wanted to redeem herself. I hope that the goddess forgave her for her actions. She complied with the goddess's wishes, and I hope that she got her reward for it. I told her, and I was serious. I only reached out to make sure she knew how I felt. Someone else telling her after the fact would not have had the desired effect. Even if I die tonight, I will feel better for having cleared the air between us. I hope so too, Reagan. I know she didn't have it easy living with Graham. He loved her, kind of, in his own way, I guess. He was much more about appearances, rather than substance. He picked her because of her beauty. He wanted other men to be jealous of what he possessed, but she was more like a trophy to him than a mate. His cheating broke their relationship apart. It was not the same after that, and I feel really bad for her because of it. I remember how embarrassed I was for her as the pack realized what he was up to. The judging looks, and ugly comments. I felt like she finally understood what I had to go through every day. Well, she got to experience some of it, as no one had ever put their hands on her. I hope she truly was as happy as Cheryl told me she had been at Black Moon. She told me how much Cassandra loved her new home. Apparently, Graham let her design it from start to finish. That was how he showed his love for her, with money. That was how he usually showed it to everyone he cared about. Cheryl told me that Cassandra loved to watch the sunrise and sunset every day from her view in her living room and kitchen area. It seems like she enjoyed that special time to herself. Cheryl mentioned how Cassandra would get a faraway look on her face when she spoke about how she loved to watch the beautiful colors in the sky. He built her the home of her dreams. I am glad that she got some joy in her life. It was the least he could do for her. We will be there in a little while. I will call you when we are about 8 minutes out, Raven said to me. I can read between the lines. I know what she meant, she just didn't want to say it. She meant that she hoped that despite what all Graham had done to Cassandra, she hoped that Cassandra was indeed happy for the last 15 years. She was, for all I knew about their relationship. Mom was kind of tight-lipped about those kinds of things until recently, but she did seem happier than I have seen her in a long time on her last 2 visits. She also meant that the goddess does get you back for disobeying her. She didn't want to upset me right from the start, but I can read between the lines. I will say that the punishment she alluded to was completely accurate. That was part of the reason that I left everything alone like I did. I know the goddess doesn't like it when you think you know more than she does, or try to circumvent what she has planned. The goddess kept watching me crap on all her best laid plans. No matter what you call it, karma, fate, or the goddess having enough of me and my bad decisions. She took it out of my hands and showed me the error of my ways. Sometimes you have to get taken down a peg or two, or all the way down if you can't take a hint. That is what happened to me, and I learned from it. I am a better person for it. It was a hard lesson, but one that I needed. We got the call that they were about to arrive 40 minutes later, and we went to meet them at the gate. I was nervous, as I hope this is going to work out. I hope Raven was being serious about this, as she could use this as an opportunity to get me back. But I felt deep down that she was happy at hearing from me. I was really excited about getting to see her. She was right. I could see 2 SUVs on the side of the road already, and Blake was in the first vehicle. I am quite sure that when he sees their convoy coming, he will be pulling up to the gate like he just got here too. That made me smile, and Aaron went to the gate and had them open it, and he waved them in. As they pulled up, the window came down. Aaron grinned and said, "Less conspicuous this way, Blake. We know that you are here to see Cheryl. Don't start anything, I will warn you now that she is still not doing well." Blake rolled his eyes but nodded in agreement. 5 minutes later they did arrive and they were in several SUVs like she had mentioned. One of them in the center was almost totally blacked out with window tint, all the way around it. There was only a foot-high area on the front windshield that didn't have window tint on it. My phone rang as they lined up at the gate, and we were already opening it, as I answered. "Do you have a garage in your home?" Raven asked me. "I do, a double garage, it has 1 car in it right now. Is 1 space okay? Or will you need both of them?" I answered her back. "Both, if you can spare them," Raven answered me back. "Sure, follow me to my home," I told her, and we got back into the SUV to drive home. Clive has an SUV, and I do as well, and mine was the one at home. We are in Clive's SUV right now. We need 2 of them to transport us all when we go places. I see Blake's 2 SUVs follow us to our home as well. As soon as we got there, Clive parked in the covered area for visitors next to the house and I got out to move my SUV from the garage. The one that Raven was in pulled in, followed by the blacked out SUV. We all walked up to greet them when Raven told us we needed to go ahead into the house and they would follow us in. I was beginning to worry that we had a problem now and that they were not here to help. The worst part was that I had invited them here. I am worried for my children and my mate now, as the horrible things I did when I was younger are now coming back to haunt me. This is going to be my fault, and I am worried. Alpha Cole was in my living room with about 8 heavily armed men, from the last 2 SUVs. There were 6 warriors from Blackadder that had been in the second SUV. None of them seemed upset or attempted to cause a problem. They all sat down calmly, and former Alpha Cole commented on how nice my home was. I thanked him, and Blake, Clive, and Aaron went around and shook hands to thank them for coming and introducing themselves. We all turned around when the door opened. I see that they had shut my garage door before they exited the vehicles, and in the next minute, I knew why. Raven entered first with a smile on her face, looking around until her eyes landed on me. She headed right to me to give me a hug, and I hugged her back. I didn't realize how emotional I was going to be at getting to see my sister again. Brandon and Justin had come in behind her. They were carrying several bags of crossbows, and a lot of arrows. The room fell silent as the rest of the group entered. I knew what they were now, I just don't know why they are here, inside my home. I felt real fear now, as I stand here staring at 9 vampires standing in my kitchen looking around at all of us. 2 of them, clearly the leaders of the group, had a smirk on their faces at seeing the complete shock on our faces. I want to run upstairs to protect my children, but Raven puts her hand on my arm and said, "It is okay, Regan, they will not hurt any of you. They are our allies, and they are here to help. Or if you want to pay for more such audiobooks, you can send us a request in a private Facebook group, or join us on WhatsApp, a link is given in the video description. The rest of the audiobooks will be uploaded in the next episode. Join us on Patreon to listen to more unlimited audiobooks.